Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take another look at the Falcon from the previous video. That is because some of you called me an idiot and that I didn't show enough of the machine and that I didn't even realize that there was another card on the PC card and stuff like that. So to right that wrong, I'm going to show you more and we're going to disassemble the whole machine. And well, what I have here is what looks like, if you look from the side here, if you look from the side, looks like a Falcon case, but it's not. And because it's not, I had to do some filing. It's not finished yet, but yeah, that's what it looks like now, to make room for the Falcon itself. And I will try to put the Falcon into this case and I will use it for a few days or weeks. And then I will decide if I put it back into the tower or if I leave it in one of those cases which it came in. We will also go and create the internal hard drive for an CF card, and we will try to attach a Gotek drive. So, lots to do today. Let's get cracking. And I almost forgot. Klaus did send over manuals for the stuff that's maybe in there, maybe not.
This video is kindly sponsored by PCBWay. Thank you, PCBWay.
Falcon time. We have a few things to do. First of all, I will have to take a lot of pictures so that I can put it back together if I need to. Because this thing is massive in terms of cabling. I did remove this little adapter which connects the hard drive, and yeah, there's lots of other stuff and we will take a look at that in a minute. But what some of you said is that only this little piece up here is actually the AT card, this little thing, and that's true, and that these SIM sockets belong to a different card, which seems to be correct also. So we'll take a very close look at that. We will remove the power supply. We will leave the drives in here, except for the disk drive. I need the disk drive for now, just to make it fit in the case, but I don't need the hard drives and the CD-ROM. And it seems to be pretty snug in here, so I have no idea how to remove all these parts that are like this, and yeah, we will see. It looks like you need a plan for that, which of course I don't have. Out of the way, let's go and let's disassemble. Where to start? Let me see. So we need to remove the PSU. So I'm going to pull that plug here. So what I can already tell is that this power connector is different from the one that is on the Atari ST, for which I have a power supply. I don't have one for the Falcon. So again, as in so many of my videos, I have to construct a power supply, which is not a big deal because yeah, that looks pretty much simple. It's 12 volts, ground 5 volts. That's good. And we need a few cables to connect this whole stuff here. So let's pull all of these cables. Interestingly, the disk drive seems to be powered from the board. At least that was what I thought, but they cut the cable there. At least on the STE there is a disk drive cable soldered to the board. Okay. By the way, last time I didn't notice, but we have just one IDE drive in here, and we have two SCSI drives. The CD-ROM is one, and we do have a SCSI hard drive up here. So I didn't notice that the last time, so I did actually take the time and checked stuff. Okay, time to get the PSU out. Okay, there's a black cable going somewhere. Not sure where. Oh man, it's not just that they plugged in stuff, they also extended stuff and soldered in. Oh no, that's just a cable lying here. Good, 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 good. Not sure where this belongs to. It's just hanging in here. There's some cut wires over there, so we can pull that keyboard connector. And I think I will leave most of these cables routed. I don't have to get in here again. We have the SCSI connector, which is right here and is attached to this here. And that is actually screwed in, so I will have to unscrew this from the outside. This is going to be a pain to put back together. So that should loosen this here. We can remove this little adapter here, which just connects these two SCSI ports. We have the SCSI adapter free. Nice. What else do we have? We have this port here, which I think we will just pull and then lift up. So I think I will disconnect the whole SCSI adapter here, or this adapter board. Pull that out. That is that. Okay, this is our floppy cable, which was extended. And I will just de-extend it like that. And this is also soldered to the board, just like in the STE. We can pull the power cable, and that gives us the whole board free, I think. Almost. We have these two connections here, which connect to the analog joystick ports, and we have this MIDI / cartridge port angle thing, which we have to remove to get it out of here, because this gets attached first, I think, and then the whole board gets put into the case. There are some, you can't see that, some plastic holders here which keep the board in place. And what we also have, we have the port screws, which we have to remove. Let me do that quickly. These little fellas here where you screw your connectors into. So I think no modifications have been made to the board. There's one of these standoffs for the disk drive, which was left in here. Don't know why. Yeah, now I need to figure out how to remove these clips on the other side.
Let's quickly take a moment to thank the sponsor of today's video, PCBWay. PCBWay offers PCB production and assembly, as well as 3D printing, CNC manufacturing, and much, much more. I use PCBWay myself to produce PCBs, to get assembled PCBs like the Pi 15413, and I also use the 3D printing service on my Amiga box project, and I was very, very pleased with the results. So if you have anything you need in terms of PCBs or 3D printing, just give PCBWay a chance. Again, thank you PCBWay for sponsoring this video.
Whew. Okay, so that should now be able to move. And it is. Nice. Let's unplug these two joystick ports here. Now we can just turn it a little. And there we are. Oh, there's a cable stuck here. It's the reset switch. Yay. Okay, let's disconnect that. Okay, and here is our fully stacked Falcon, which we can now see for the first time. Okay, all we need out of this case now is the disk drive, so let's quickly take that out. So in the end there were fewer cables than I expected that I had to take out. That's not bad. Here's the disk drive and the cable that's coming apart, so I have to. So let's grab the case. I just want to see if it fits in the case. That's my main concern right now. So here's my modified XTE case, and the nice thing about the XTE case is that it already has these extended joystick ports on the side, and that should give us the ability to just drop the board in there. But first we have to take this side thing off of here. Okay, got it. Let's put that in and see if I... oh. Okay. Almost. Kind of forgot to drill a hole there where the RF modulator comes out. On the other hand, I don't really need it, so not sure if you can just remove it if you don't need it. But that is what the case looks like from the back. Let me show you. All the ports are reachable, so that's nice. So I'm pretty happy. Yeah, even the screw holes line up, which is good. So I will undo this here because that's not necessary. We just need these cables, but that is not great here. It's just, I think it's torn off. It wasn't meant to be disconnected, but it is. That might tell us why Klaus told me that the Falcon doesn't like heat and just turns off. Let me quickly drill a hole, and then we can check out if we can make this work somehow, which would be great, of course. Okay, first success, all the holes line up, which is great. Yeah, what I would like to do is just to start it up and see if it works, but problem is we don't even have a power supply. And we have a whole lot of metal shielding which we have to somehow accommodate in this machine, because all the height is defined by that metal sheet, and that I think also means that I have to re-drill my hole here. So here's the metal cage from the XTE, and of course all the holes on the back do not line up. It's not a big problem here, but it's a problem here. Okay, that looks good. Reasonably okay. I think this thing is ready to receive the board, and let's see if it actually fits this time. Put it in the cage first, and then we can set it into the case. Now this should somehow fit. I think it actually does. That is pretty cool. Okay, nice. And as I already feared, this will of course not fit. And that is because we have a whole stack of stuff here that just won't work. But the question is, do we need this? I don't think we do. So I can do without this, and I can make some 3D printed cover for this to be on here. The PSU itself sits on its own tray, which looks like this here. That just doesn't fit, because there's ports in the way again. Ah, that makes sense. Now I understand why the power button is just above the other power button on the XE. Okay, so I will probably get rid of this, because I think it's just... ah, wait, that has 0.9 amps at 12 volts and 3 amps at 5 volts. Not sure what the Falcon has. I have to look this up. If this is enough, I will try to make this fit somehow. And if it's not, I will still try to make this fit somehow. because that's just how I write. So it's this networking port here which is in the way. That blocks that metal frame here, and that is why the power button sits higher on the Falcon. So there's different ways to handle this. The first being that I 3D print a part which has pretty much the same dimensions like this metal cage, and just a spot where this can fit. Or I could just cut that piece out of here, which would probably make a whole mess. I'm not even sure if I can pull that off. Okay, so let's put that aside for now. I would have to mount the disk drive somehow, which would be with these standoffs here, and then this here, and then this screws in here. Sits perfectly in here. So let me go and let me screw this in, because that's a step further to having this in this case. I think they managed to destroy the screw holes here. That's not great. Yeah, so the screws won't grab. Nice. Okay, that doesn't work. So I need a plan B for this specific disk drive, because all the screws don't take too well to all this. So I'm pretty happy that all this up to this point works somehow. I need a PSU, which should be doable, and we want to take a much closer look at what is below here. And I'm pretty sure that this is an accelerator card. Okay, let's take the drive out again. If I can't screw it in, it's not very helpful right now. These pins have to go too. So at least it lines up with a slot on the side, which is good. The drive slot that is in the case. Okay, so there's a Falcon in an STE case. I have to figure out how to mount the disk drive, and I have to find a power supply. Yeah, so let me figure out the PSU stuff first, and then I can check how to tackle the rest. After some serious debating if I should 3D print this, I just did saw a little, and yeah, that seems to have worked just fine. So let's put the power supply back in. Okay, that looks good. Still haven't checked what kind of power we need for the Falcon. So I have, however, to replace this connector here, because that surely doesn't fit. But that's not a big deal. Okay, and that's the PSU back together. It's still stable. So it says here that we need 12 volts at 1.5 amps. Not sure if that's correct. And since we are not using a standard hard disk, but instead a CF card, that might actually work. Not sure what the 12 volts are for. I think the disk drive only needs 5 volts. So yeah, not sure what the 12 volts are for. We will try this, and I will make a connector for this, hopefully without destroying this one, and we can try. But first let's put it in the case and see if it fits now. And there we are, back in the cage. It's not the correct spot for the switch, and the switch has the wrong color. I think the Falcon one is black, and the switch is up here instead of down here. But so far I like, because that is just perfect. If this works, that's great. If it doesn't, I will just replace this PSU with one of these Pico PSUs, which will definitely work. But for now, I'm happy. Power connector is here, and then we just have to wire this up. And then we could theoretically give this a try. Okay, the fan is connected again. Not sure if we really need it. This actually needs 12 volts at 0.21 amps. So I did hot glue the disk drive in place, because no way that these screws grab anytime soon. I did uncramp these cables here. There was this extender cable for the CD-ROM. I did remove that and heat shrink this. I did build my own power supply connector and soldered these wires to the original PSU of the STE. I did reattach the little red wire for the fan, and we are ready for a test. Yeah, so I have to plug in the power, and then I have to switch it on, and then I hope that it doesn't explode. Did double and triple checked everything. Everything should be good, but you never know. You just don't. So I can't attach, or I can attach a keyboard, but I can't put it in here because this stack here is way too high. I have to decide what to do about this. With the accelerator card in here, there's no way that I can put the keyboard in here. So I will have to decide if I leave the accelerator in, or if I just put in the PC card, or if I leave both of them out. But if I remove the accelerator, I have to find a way to reverse the stuff that was done to make the accelerator work. And for that, there's what I read up on is that you had to lift a few pins from the CPU. So I will have to redo this, or undo this rather, which is nothing I'm looking forward to. So yeah, for now we're just going to plug it in, fire it up, see what it does, if anything, or if we just get smoke. Whew, I'm a bit nervous. Turn it like this because my VGA cable is too short to go much further. We need a mouse, which we can't attach because we don't have a keyboard, so I have to remove the keyboard and put it in here. But for a quick does it work or does it burn test, I think we can just go and use this cable right here. So it's switched off. I always thought that the Falcon had an internal SCSI bus, but it doesn't. It's just the memory bus here, or the connector for the memory. So no internal SCSI bus, which explains this SCSI 2 construction to internally connect a drive. And you may notice that I'm stalling. Let's plug this in. Okay, no explosions so far. That's good, I think. Let's see what happens. We have fan. We have no explosion, which is good. Let's switch over to the screen. No sync, no sync, no sync. That's not great. Let's switch it off. So the fan worked. Let's put in a disk. Maybe we get some disk spin at least. No, we don't. Shit. But it could be that this PSU is too weak. If that's the case, I have to use one of these Pico PSUs. It's a week later, and yeah, that was a pretty shocker that the machine didn't start, and I took a day to try to find the fault, and it turned out that this baby here just wasn't the socket correctly. Then it started up and I just got a widescreen, and I was shocked again, and that was because I had removed this card here, the AT card. Yeah, so it's tricky with this machine. The fan works now. I did put in a CF card, but using this accelerator card down here, which is the Mighty Sonic 32, makes this extremely unstable. You can see there's some black tape here. I did put a heatsink on the CPU here, which is an 68030 processor running at 32 megahertz. And if I try to format this disk here, HD driver just says, nope, thank you. That might be due to the fact that this driver is really old. This is a 4.6 version. I did download a 7.5 version just to check. And And because I know that Klaus has a license or had a license for a more recent version, which was on the hard drive. Yeah, so I can't format this. I can't partition this. The machine just crashes. But we get a good look at the machine now. So what we have is we have the AT card, the PC emulator card. Well, it's not an emulation, it's actually PC hardware in here. We have that here, this little thing. That is stacked on top of the Mighty Sonic 32 accelerator card, which is connected with this little ribbon cable here to different points on the board. Also under there is the original 68030 CPU, which has two legs lifted up. So if I want to remove this right here, and that is my plan, I want to remove the accelerator and maybe leave in the PC card, because I think this is somehow terminating this whole thing. There's a jumper on these pins on the board if you have no card installed, so I think that is like a SCSI termination. It's not SCSI, of course, but it's like that kind of termination, so that the machine knows, okay, that's pretty much it. Nothing more coming here. And I think this card terminates this port. There are actually two connections. One is here, and this card stuck in there. And as I said, I get a widescreen if I start it. If I remove this card here. I haven't removed this accelerator card because it's firmly in here. Problem is, I have extended the keyboard here. That's not a problem, but I can't put on the keyboard here. As you can see, this just sits on top of this, and these connectors here for the SIM sockets are just too high. So I can't put a keyboard on here because it would short out, because that is what a keyboard for the Atari looks like. There are actually connections on the bottom, and they are not shielded, they are just here. So if I want to close this whole thing, I actually have to remove this accelerator card, and since it's very unstable and temperature sensitive, so the room is now at, I don't know, 32, 33 degrees Celsius, and the machine just crashes occasionally. So yeah, I don't need the acceleration, I just want a Falcon. Could be a stock Falcon with a CF card as my hard drive and usual disk drive. I also prepared a GoTech and a USB stick, so I could also put in a GoTech. But I somehow like the idea of having real disks. Yeah, call me old-fashioned, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's already stacked with 14 megabytes of RAM, which is more than enough. You can put in TT RAM here, which is what it is called, which is faster RAM. Details. I did get the machine to run with the original PSU, and I 3D printed this plastic thing on top here so that I don't get zapped when I use the switch on the backside, because it was always open, and this is live 240 volts and you don't want to touch that. I did reattach the wires because I found out that the PSU is sufficient to run this unless you use a real hard drive, I assume, because that would suck quite a lot of energy, but these CF cards just don't. And even with these CPUs in, that power supply is sufficient to do that. Yeah, the color is funky, I know. So, what's to do? I think I will go and I will lift out this card, then we can take a look at the accelerator at its hole, and then I will lift out the accelerator, but I will not remove the ribbon cable connections. I will just unplug this here, and I will see if or how the legs on the CPU have been lifted, because these legs are really, really tiny, and I can solder them back if they are still there. If someone just cut them, well, that's a different story. Let's lift this out. Well, let me first show you that the machine actually runs now. So I will remove the CF card, and I will put in, say, Pinball Dreams for the Falcon. which is a shitty version because it's optimized for VGA and it's flickering and stuff, and that is not supposed to be. Maybe that is because of the accelerator, but I think it's, well, since it reads in the opening screen of the disk if you load it, you can see it in a minute, that doesn't seem to be a problem that only my Falcon has. So there we are. Let's cut the memory test. So the machine is running again, which is great. And there we are. Now it says here, VGA version cracked and fixed to work properly in all folders where you want to play it. Better play the RGB version. VGA sucks. Yeah, I can attest to that. Yeah, that is the classic pinball dreams. And as you can see, there's something cut on the top and the bottom, and that is just how it is. On every screen I tested with or without any capture devices, it just looks like this. That might be the reason why they say VGA sucks. I just played with the keyboard. Flickery on the table. That is not the capture that's on screen. You can see that the scoreboard above is actually missing. So now let's go and let's remove stuff. First let's unplug this. I'm strapped in, by the way, so I should be anti-static. And it's a real pain to remove these boards here, because they are really on there. Oh man, that's so painful. And you can see how this board is, these two boards are moving around. So that's the first one. Oh yeah, that heatsink which I put here is already toasty just from running for a very short time. You can see this is you can't see. This is a 68030 RC50B. That's what it is. Let's put that back on there. Okay, now for the fun part, which is removing all that stuff here. Let's start with a ribbon cable. And then let's try to lift this out of here. I just hope there's nothing under there that gets stuck. So the two connectors should be here and here. There's actually a jumper here. I'm not sure if this is probably the termination which has to be set if you don't attach the card. I didn't test that because I don't want to kill the machine. And there's no documentation whatsoever on that. So I left it out. This is... okay, I think I got it. Okay. Okay. So that is our accelerator card. Not sure if I can get this positioned back on there properly. So the easiest way to go and see if, yeah, I can already see that two legs are lifted. One has a cable attached, which needs to be attached there for this to run. So this is a Mighty Sonic 32 and it's made in November of 1993 that is. Has a few jumpers here which are not documented. Has a jumper here, or at least two pins, a pin header where the jumper could go, which is undocumented. And that's the board. So now I can actually put the keyboard on here. Nice. If I remove the cable, that is. Yeah, okay, that has to go on the underside, of course. Yeah, and that would be the Falcon, how it is supposed to look. Nice. But it won't work because of all these cables here, which is number one, and because the main processor, which is in here, is disconnected. And I do assume that pin 16 and 17, these two pins are not connected to the board. So I think, since this is a real tiny job, I will break out the microscope and I will try to connect that and remove this one cable, leave the other cables in place because they don't hurt, they're just cables, and we will see if the machine boots then. Because it was running on 16 megahertz all along, I didn't even use that accelerator program which you need to start to activate the accelerator, so all we saw was always just the standard Falcon. It's good to have this, but I'm not using this now. So maybe I find more documentation or something, or people comment on this video about this card, which would be great because, well, then we could get any further with this. But for now, I'm okay if this is just a standard stock Falcon 030 in a modified Atari ST case, of course. I'm a bit nervous if I can pull this off, but I guess we are about to find out. So let me remove this here, let me solder the legs back on, and let's see if we have a winner. So I have the microscope right here, if I need it. I will first try to just freehand it. I'm not sure if I can pull this off. These pins here are really tiny. Maybe I give you a little preview of what I have to do. Down here is the cable that has to go. That's on the outmost pin, and we have this pin right here which is lifted and has to go back on the board. My first thing to do, you can already see it's very tiny. This is a Q-tip, so you can imagine how small these pins are. And it should not touch the other one. Yeah, that's pretty much perfect. Solder this one, and if this is stable, I go and I solder the one with a cable on. So let's maybe first go and remove the cable. That is the only cable I will remove. I will put some heat shrinking on there so that it doesn't short anything. Just hope they didn't hurt this leg too much and didn't move it too much, because this gets very brittle and then it's almost impossible. Solder back on. It's pretty bent, you can't see that here, but it's not touching the board yet. It makes it a bit harder to solder to. So let's put some flux here. And that's all the trick in the world, to use lots of flux and very little solder. That's how it is. Let's see if we already have a connection. Don't. We have on this leg here. This is okay. Still loose. That is what I said before. It's very hard to solder this if it's not touching the board. So I will have to press down on this from one side and then solder from the other. And now we have a bridge. Great. Okay, we need more flux. You need a really steady hand for this. I think I got it. Let's check. There's no bridge. There's no bridge. And that's connected. That's connected. Okay, all connected. Let's clean this up. Cotton swab and some IPA to clean this. Okay, so the processor is reattached. So I'm 99.9% sure that if I switch this on now, I get a widescreen, because this is not terminated and you have to put a jumper on this pin row here on a specific position, which is 4 pins from the left on the top row, and then it should work. And let me grab a jumper to actually test my theory. Okay, here's my little jumping friend. Yeah, there's actually a silkscreen marking on there, which says W11. You can see above the connector here, there's a little white rectangle. That's where the jumper goes. Let's put it there. Like this. I'm really nervous. Man. You know, if you work on some random machine, which you have no history or anything with, that doesn't matter. If it dies, it dies, and you get the next one. But this machine is special to me, so I'm double checking and triple checking things as I go along. Okay, plugging it in. Okay, there goes nothing. Ah, I hear the disk drive, which is a very good sign. Yeah! Memory test. That is. That is great news. Oh, I didn't attach a keyboard. Well, that's awesome. Maybe I should put a disk in. Okay, that works. Oh, I'm so relieved. So I did connect the keyboard. I did insulate this little wire here with some heat shrink tubing. And then we can put the keyboard on. And let's close this up for the first time. So the disk drive needs to be held in place. It's just flopping around right now. Yeah, putting the joystick ports down there is probably the stupidest decision in all of computing history, but it is what it is. And I have this CF card with some stuff on it. It's so nice to see this machine in this case. Only thing missing is a proper case badge, but not for long, because I did, of course, get a proper case badge. More on that later. So I did copy over almost everything from Klaus's original hard drives, so that I have a backup. Especially of all these drivers, which I don't have disks for. So yeah, that is what not the standard TOS looks like on the Falcon. This is the multi-TOS. It's called, you can see that it has actually an app here, and if I run another app, let's go and let's start. If I start install PRG, you can see we have now 2 programs here. And the special thing about this is it does change the menu up here, and you have real multitasking. And other than on the Amiga, and that is, I know that through comments on the last video, is that you have actual memory protection. So if one program crashes, it doesn't crash all of the machine, it just crashes that program. If you crash a program on the Amiga, it crashes, or it could potentially corrupt the memory of all the other apps and crash the machine completely. Yeah, so that is that. So I think this brings my journey with this Falcon, hardware-wise, to an end. I will put a heatsink on the CPU here, and then I will go and put the PC card back in, and already know that that works. And you have to remove the jumper again, and this is seemingly self-terminating because there's no pass-through on the top. And I did a few other things, which I will show you in a second. Let's hope that this sticks. It doesn't interfere with the card here. So I did remove my self-made protection here because the cover wouldn't close, and the cover is the protection in this case. I will cable tie this down. Another thing is, this is the faceplate of the original Falcon drive, and I did put it on a 720K drive because that's what was in the STE, and it's exactly the same drive except for the HD capability. And I took the faceplate from the STE drive and put it on the Falcon drive, as you can see here. So now I can just put on the cover. I don't have to cut any holes to accommodate for this faceplate because it's just the same faceplate as on the STE, and yeah, it just fits. And it looks perfect. And it's probably the only Falcon that has an STE drive faceplate on an Epson SMD 300, because the one in the STE is an SMD 380, at least in my case it was. I will have to connect Klaus' original hard drives again, because the data that was on the SD card, no, on the CF card that I prepared before and copied all the files over, there were corrupted files on this, and that was because of the accelerator card. The accelerator card didn't play nice with the HD driver, and so yeah, that's that. I do want to finish the hardware part of this, which is attaching this right here, the case badge. This is really nice. It's not just printed, it's actually embossed on there. It should fit right in here, and it does. Nice. So I might paint this case because it's yellowed. It does almost look like a Falcon case. Falcon case is a little shade of gray darker than these keys here, but for now I'm okay with this. Very nice. It looks almost factory, and it's completely clean. Has this nice embossed label here. I'm very, very, very happy with this. It was a lot of work. I worked on this 1.5 weeks just to get it to this state here, and I was very cautious not to destroy anything, and I'm very happy that it worked out. And especially because I could reuse the STE PSU and the STE disc faceplate. I want to show that correctly. Look at that. It's perfect. It's just perfect. So there was one thing that I didn't tackle yet, and that was the back side of this machine, which doesn't look great because these cutouts are for the STE and not for the Falcon, and it just doesn't look nice. And I was debating with myself, do I do something about this, or do I just leave it like this because it's the backside, nobody will ever see it. But I know it's there, and that's what bothered me. So I went on and let me show you, did start designing a backplate. And if you take a look at the back here, you can see there's a little edge here. And what I did is I just thought of putting something over there. And yes, it's orange and it's not the final print, it's just one of my test prints. If you know how I design, that's how I do it. I just do very thin test prints because it goes fast, just to make sure the measurements are correct. And I have my measurements here on a piece of paper. And after a few iterations, as you can see, and here is the finished product. Just use this very thin 3mm double-sided tape. Yeah, and it's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this. These seams are not perfect, but it looks much better than before, because at least all the cuts are now straight, and that is pretty much the way it looks on the original Falcon. I like it. Everything just works. Found two things that didn't work on the tower version of this, which is the fan, which was just disconnected because one cable broke off, and the color output on the monitor port because one pin was bent. I would love to show you the accelerator, but as I said, it's completely unstable. It doesn't, I wouldn't have been in here for minutes like now. It would just crash. So yeah, that doesn't make too much sense. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's too warm in here. I mean, it's getting summer here in Germany, so maybe that is why that is. I don't know. And Klaus told me that it crashes occasionally. So this ends my hardware journey with the Falcon. I will do some software videos in the future, and I will also show you which documents Klaus sent in for the various hardware and software thingies that were with the Falcon. I will use it in this case for a while, and then I will decide if I put it back in the tower or if I just stash the tower in a box and store it away. If you have any ideas, suggestions, if you have a real Falcon case, let me know. That would have made it much easier because that was really a struggle. Yeah, looking forward to actually using the Falcon, and as far as I saw now, the Falcon is or was not meant as a gaming machine, even though it was graphically very capable. To me it seems that the Falcon was always aimed at the professional market, and that is what the German fraction of Atari thought it should be marketed like. And there was actually a special version for musicians once the Falcon was discontinued by Atari, and it was sold to a company that then made their own musician version of the Falcon. Yeah, so that is, it wasn't meant as a gaming machine, it wasn't meant as a competitor to the Amiga. The 1200 was out back then, and it was about 500 euros or dollars, I think. And the Falcon was 2,500 euros or dollars. No, it was Mark by then, Deutschmark. So that was quite the price difference. So it didn't stand a chance in the gaming market, and it wasn't aiming at it because at that cost it just couldn't compete. This was more on the line of an Amiga 3000, which was expandable, came in a desktop case and was aimed at the professional market, the video market that was. Yeah, the Falcon is an interesting machine at an interesting period of time, and we will go deeper and further into that in future videos. Yeah, but that concludes my, let's call it the hardware discovery of the Falcon. And there will be a video about the PC card in here, which works like a charm, I can tell you that much. Really, it really does, and it just works, which is astounding. I will try to get the accelerator working and find out what's wrong with it or what doesn't work there. Maybe it's some faulty caps or anything, I don't know yet. And I want to set this up properly. Right now I just have Mint running on this, which is the multitasking TOS version, and that looks interesting, but there's more. I can't use it to its full capability because I'm not a musician. So yeah, maybe I will try to dig one up and let him tell his story with the Falcon, if I find one, who actually used this. I know a lot of musicians who used Atari STs back in the day. So maybe that works out. So if you have your own stories with the Falcon, let me know in the comments. And maybe you can be that person I interview, or maybe I do interviews with more than just one person. Because this machine is, I think, underrated and mostly unknown to people who had Amigas or Atari STs, because they had already moved on to other machines, maybe except for the professional market and the musicians. So that ends my rambling of this. I did intend to do much more with this machine in this video, and I have about 20 hours of material filmed. I tried to condense that down to 40 to 50 minutes. Not sure where I land here, but there's more, and I have it filmed already, like installing the ECF card, copying over drivers, stuff like that. And it's complex, and due to the fact that the accelerator was acting up, it made it unnecessarily hard. Once the accelerator was out, everything just worked. Yeah, so that's now really it. Thank you again for watching. Comment in the comments, and yeah, don't be too harsh on me. I'm an Amiga man, so I'm just discovering this. Bye bye. Thanks again to PCBWay for sponsoring this video. If you need any PCBs, pre-assembled PCBs or 3D printing, please use the link in the description below.
Thank you for watching Retro is the New Black. If you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. If you like the video, please share. Every like, share, and comment helps a lot. Until next time, bye-bye.